Hi everyone, welcome to week 9 of your Career Success for Pharmacy Technicians course. This week in your English textbook, we are going to be covering chapter 11. So chapter 11 is all about more punctuation. So we learned about some of the basics last week. So things like, endings of sentences, so periods, question marks, things like that. Where to put commas within a sentence, things like that. So this week we're going to be adding to that, and we're going to be looking at things like colons and semicolons, when to use quotation marks, where to put apostrophes, and if you're anything like me, that is a real struggle sometimes. Having a last name of Davis is difficult because I never know where exactly that apostrophe goes. Does it go after the S and then we add another S, or is it an ES, or where exactly, how do I do that, right? And sometimes I even, because I struggle with it so much, even after having had the name for 30 years, I still will avoid having to pluralize my last name. Instead, I'll just do something like the Davis family or something. So I definitely get the struggle behind the apostrophe. And then, of course, hyphens and parentheses and brackets. So that's all of the different types of punctuation that you're going to be looking at in Chapter 11. And then you're going to go to your other textbook, and we are going to be looking at Section 2, Step 2. So with step 1, we basically kind of looked at, that whole idea of let's think about this, right? What kind of questions do we need to ask ourselves? How do we prepare for leaving a job and things like that? And in this step, we're going to look at what do you tell your employer? What do you tell your coworkers? How do you write that resignation letter? And then you're going to actually go through an actual resignation letter activity and an exit conversation activity. If you've never experienced an exit interview, make sure that you read through this section. It's really important to understand what an exit interview is all about. The big key is that, a lot of places truly do want feedback. And especially if it's been a great relationship. Even then they do want feedback. They want to know, what did they do well? What improvements could they make though? So again, keep in mind that, when you leave a job, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? You could, you're obviously, could be just moving on within the company, or, found a better job, more money, whatever. So it's not necessarily bad that you're leaving. So you want to make sure that you leave on the best possible foot. And that kind of goes back a little bit to the whole what to tell your coworkers scenario. Keep in mind, like we talked about last week, is the fact that your coworkers could very easily be your coworkers again somewhere else, or maybe even your supervisor somewhere else, or you could be their supervisor, etc. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And so those things are things to keep in mind when you are telling coworkers that you're leaving, things like that. You want to make sure that you keep everything professional, all of those types of things. And like I said, it's really important to look through the how to handle that exit conversation. If you've never experienced that, it's really important to make sure you understand how that works. And this is just kind of a, thing to kind of talk about beforehand. So it's things to get you thinking. What did you learn from the job? What work habits improved, so that you can talk about those when you are in that exit interview. And then they also will have you walk through how to write that resignation letter. Again, it's all about making sure that you're not burning bridges. So as you go through this week, if you have any problems or questions, please make sure that you reach out to me, and have a great week.